All right, you bastards, welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're going to rip apart this Wikipedia article about the history of Western fashion.
Fashion? You sure you didn't accidentally grab a knitting magazine or something?
Nah, fuck that. We're going deep on this shit. We got a fashion guru here to make sure we don't sound like complete dumbasses.
Let's just hope we can make this more Project Runway and less fashion disaster.
Okay, so this Wikipedia article is a fucking timeline of fashion from the year 400 AD all the way to now. It's mind-blowing how long people have been obsessed with what they wear.
It's not just about the clothes, though. It's a reflection of the entire culture, the politics, everything.
Right, but let's cut the crap and get to the good stuff. There are a million historical periods listed here. Byzantine era, Renaissance, Victorian. We could be here all fucking day. Instead of picking one randomly, let's start at the beginning. Give us the lowdown on fashion in the early days.
All right, let's go back to ancient Rome around 400 AD. Think togas, tunics, and stolas. Basically, lots of draped fabric. It was all about simplicity and functionality.
So like they were rocking bedsheets before it was cool. Were they at least rocking some sweet sandals or something?
They did have sandals, yes. And don't forget the accessories. Romans were big on jewelry, especially rings and brooches. It was a way to show off your wealth and status.
So even back then, people were flexing with their bling. That's some serious OG fashion shit. But how the hell did we go from togas to, like, skinny jeans and whatever the hell else people are wearing these days?
Well, fashion is always evolving. As societies change, so do their clothes. For example, the Middle Ages brought about new styles influenced by Christianity and feudalism. Think long tunics, cloaks, and elaborate headwear. It was all about modesty and social hierarchy.
Wait, so they went from showing off their bling to covering themselves up like goddamn nuns. What the fuck happened?
The church had a huge influence on fashion during that time. Modesty was key. And your clothes told everyone your place in society. You couldn't just wear whatever you wanted. There were rules about what each social class could wear.
So basically your outfit was like a giant billboard announcing your social status. That's kind of fucked up, isn't it?
It's a different way of thinking about clothes than we have today. But it shows how fashion is always tied to the social and political climate of the times.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. So how did we break free from all that religious and social bullshit and start dressing for ourselves?
It was a gradual process, but the Renaissance was a turning point. We're talking the 14th to 16th centuries. This was a time of renewed interest in classical art and culture, and that influenced fashion as well. Think elaborate gowns, intricate embroidery, and the return of luxurious fabrics like silk and velvet.
So they ditched the drab medieval shit and went full-on glam. Sounds like my kind of party.
The Renaissance was all about showing off your wealth and sophistication. It was the era of the Medici in Florence, the rise of powerful merchant families, and a renewed focus on beauty and humanism. Fashion reflected that.
Okay, so we've gone from togas to tunics to extravagant gowns. Where the hell do those ridiculous bustles and corsets come in?
That's later in the Victorian era. We're talking the 19th century. That's when things got really restrictive, especially for women.
I bet. Those corsets sound like a fucking nightmare.
They were designed to cinch in the waist and create an hourglass figure, which was considered the ideal of feminine beauty at the time. But it came at a cost. Women were literally squeezing themselves into these things, sometimes to the point of fainting.
Jesus, that's some fucked up beauty standards. No wonder women were pissed off back then.
But remember, fashion is always about more than just aesthetics. Those corsets were also a symbol of social status and respectability.
So basically, if you weren't suffering for fashion, you weren't a real lady. That's pretty messed up.
It's a reminder that fashion is always intertwined with societal norms and expectations.
All right, back for more fashion fuckery. Where were we? Those Victorian-era torture devices.
Those corsets, yeah, those things were brutal. But they were just one aspect of Victorian fashion.
This Wikipedia article mentions shit like bustles, crinolines, and cage crinolines. What the fuck are those?
Think of them as layers of support for those massive skirts women wore back then. Crinolines were basically petticoats made of stiff fabric or horsehair to create that bell-shaped silhouette. Then came the cage crinolines, made of steel hoops to make the skirts even wider.
So they were basically walking around in cages. No wonder they fainted all the time.
It wasn't just the physical discomfort, it was also the weight of those clothes. Imagine layers upon layers of fabric, plus the corset, plus all the other accessories. It's no surprise women were limited in what they could do.
Damn, that's some serious fashion oppression. But you know, I gotta admit, some of those Victorian dresses look kind of badass in pictures. All that detail, the lace, the embroidery, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, You can't deny the artistry and craftsmanship. Victorian fashion was all about elaborate details and embellishments.
But let's be real, it must have been a pain in the ass to get dressed back then.
Absolutely. It took hours to get into those outfits, and you needed help. It wasn't something you could just throw on and run out the door.
This Wikipedia page also mentions a bunch of other random shit like buttons, necklines, and sewing. Is there anything fashion hasn't obsessed over?
You got to remember, fashion is a whole system. It's not just about the clothes themselves. It's about the materials, the techniques, the whole process.
Okay, but let's get back to the styles. We talked about ancient Rome, the Middle Ages, and the Victorian era. What happened next? Did people finally ditch those corsets and bustles?
Well, yeah, eventually. The 20th century brought about a major fashion revolution. The rise of the flapper dress in the 1920s was a huge shift. Hemlines went up, corsets were thrown out, and women embraced a more boyish silhouette.
So they were basically like, fuck those restrictive Victorian clothes, we're going to wear what we want.
Exactly. It was a reflection of women's changing roles in society. They were gaining more independence working outside the home, and they wanted clothes that reflected that newfound freedom.
So basically fashion became less about pleasing men and more about expressing yourself.
You could say that the 20th century was a time of huge social and political upheaval, and fashion reflected those changes. You had the rise of youth culture, the counterculture movement, the sexual revolution. All of these things influenced how people dressed.
This Wikipedia article also mentions Western dress codes. What the hell is that all about?
It's basically a set of unwritten rules about what's considered appropriate to wear in different social situations. You know, like how you wouldn't wear a bikini to a funeral or show up to a job interview in your pajamas.
Unless you're trying to make a statement, right?
Exactly. Dress codes are all about context, but they're also constantly being challenged and redefined. Think about how casual workwear has become in recent years. It's a reflection of our changing attitudes towards work and social norms.
So fashion is always evolving, always pushing boundaries. What about the future of fashion? Any wild predictions?
Well, I think we'll see a continued emphasis on sustainability and ethical production. Consumers are becoming more aware of the environmental and social impact of the fashion industry, so brands are going to have to adapt.
So you're saying fast fashion is going to die? Good riddance to that bullshit.
I think we'll also see more experimentation with technology in fashion. Imagine clothes that can change color or adapt to different climates.
Whoa, that's some next level shit.
Yeah.
Like a jacket that turns into a bikini when it gets hot.
It's not that far-fetched. We're already seeing 3D printed clothing and fabrics that can monitor your vital signs.
Damn, fashion's getting futuristic. But you know what I think will never go out of style? The classics. A good suit, a little black dress. Those things are timeless.
You're right. Trends come and go, but true style is eternal.
Damn, that's deep. All right, folks, we're going to wrap up this deep dive in the next part. Stick around to hear our final thoughts on this fashion roller coaster. All right, motherfuckers, we're back for the final part of our fashion journey. We've talked about everything from togas to corsets to those goddamn cage crinolines. What else you got for us, fashion guru?
Well, we've covered a lot of ground, but there's always more to learn about fashion. It's a constantly evolving world.
This Wikipedia article has a related topic section that lists a bunch of other shit: costume, haute couture, Victorian fashion. Let's break those down real quick.
All right, let's start with costume. It's basically clothing designed for a specific purpose, like theatrical productions or historical reenactments. Think of it as creating a visual representation of a character or a time period.
So like Halloween costumes, but on steroids.
Yeah, kind of. But costume design is a serious art form. It requires a deep understanding of history, culture, and storytelling.
Okay, fair enough. What about haute couture? Sounds fancy as fuck.
Haute couture is the highest level of fashion design. We're talking about exclusive handcrafted garments made from the most luxurious materials. It's all about artistry, innovation, and of course a hefty price tag.
So basically it's fashion for the 1%.
Pretty much haute couture is about pushing the boundaries of design and showcasing the ultimate in craftsmanship. It's not meant for the masses.
Makes sense. And Victorian fashion we've already talked about, right?
Yeah.
Those corsets and bustles and all that shit.
Right. Victorian fashion is still fascinating people today. It's a complex and layered style that reflects the social, political, and economic climate of that era.
Okay, so we've gone from ancient Rome to the future of fashion. What's the biggest takeaway from all of this?
I think the main thing to remember is that fashion is never just about clothes. It's a reflection of who we are as a society. It tells a story about our values, our beliefs, and our aspirations.
Yeah, that's actually pretty deep. So basically our clothes are like a giant billboard advertising our culture to the world.
In a way, yes, fashion is a powerful form of self-expression. It can be used to conform, to rebel, to celebrate, to mourn, to provoke, to seduce. The possibilities are endless.
Well, shit. Who knew a Wikipedia article could be so damn insightful?
It's all about knowing where to look and having the right guide, of course.
All right, you beautiful bastards. That's a wrap on our deep dive into the history of Western fashion. We hope you learned some shit and had a few laughs along the way. Remember, fashion is a constantly evolving beast. So go out there, express yourselves, and don't be afraid to break a few fashion rules. Just don't bring back the goddamn bustle.
Until next time, stay stylish.
Peace out.